Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good whatever time of day it is where you are. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. This show is produced and broadcast from Portland, Oregon, USA. And for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is that we have decided to talk about. And we're going to talk about the formula of human life. That's quite an ambitious topic here. The formula of human life. And Jeff Strang and I talked about that, and we agreed that whether Ted wants to talk about it or not, he's going to, right?
Well, we'll topic creep.
Good to see you again. Yeah, let's shake hands for the camera again. Yeah, it's always a delight to have you two in any kind of a context talking and visiting about stuff. And at the Humanist of Greater Portland, we have an early bird discussion group, and then we have other discussion groups, and Jeff Strang leads them periodically. And whenever he's leading a discussion group, I'm going to be there, because I never know where he's going to take me, and I love where he takes me. And I do. You're a delightful, interesting human being. And Ted, I don't know where you take me either, but I'm following you wherever you go. You're a delight. Both of these guys have been on the show in the past before. And if we go through the form, they're going to be on again in the future. I don't know how long it'll be, but we always have a good time and have good shows whenever you guys agree to talk to me about what's going on. As you know, the first part, bio segment about who you are personally, so the viewers have an idea where you're coming from when you say things. And then the second half is this, the formula of human life. And that's going to take us far afield, but we'll come back, won't we?
Yeah.
So we'll do an abbreviated bio segment because we've got two of you instead of one for the whole half hour. And you've been on before, so we won't take too much time with the bio segment so we can get to the meat of the program. So who is going to be my first subject in the bio segment? Who should I talk to first?
Want to go first, Ted?
Fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Pyle.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Pyle.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of name is that?
I'm not sure that it has any particular origin.
Were you a pile driver in your previous life or something?
Well, actually, technically, it's not correct. My real name is Detlef Straubecher.
Strawberries what?
Detlef Straubecher.
Whose name is that?
That was what I was born, my born name.
So you were born someplace else?
Detlef Straubecher, Erlangen, Germany, 1946, right?
So you're half German?
Right.
So your mother was German?
Right. I was a product of, after the war, I never knew who my father was. But I was adopted by my mother's sister and brought to the United States because I was having problems adjusting to being in Germany.
So your mother was German?
Yeah. And I was raised by my aunt, who married Bailey Pyle, who put the name Pyle on me. And so I was an illegal alien for 65 years.
You're probably still illegal, but we won't go there.
No, I had to go through a rigorous process when I went to Social Security.
Really?
Yeah, because I walked in and Erlangen, Germany, said, "Where's your proof of citizenship?" What proof? They sent me over here at 6 years old in an airplane, said my name was Ted Pyle, and enrolled me in school, and I lived for 65 years until I went to Social Security, and I found out I was an illegal alien all my life. So then I had to have people come and testify that this was true and factual and get my citizenship established vis-a-vis my father was a GI.
In World War II?
In World War II.
Oh my gosh.
But it was
That's quite a story.
Well.
And all those years you were under an assumed name or something, huh?
Well, the thing that was comical about the whole thing was when I was 21 years old, I painted Support the Viet Cong on the draft office in downtown Vancouver as a part of SDS to avoid the draft.
Student for a Democratic Society.
Right, and I was arrested for destruction of federal property, which was the idea, to get arrested so that I would be unfit to go to Vietnam. And they never figured it out that they could have expelled me.
From the country?
Yeah.
And that's the story of your life all these years, right?
Slipped through. Yeah, right.
Slipping through.
Yeah.
Okay. Racial mixture. I have an idea. Anything else other than German and black?
Right. Yeah, like I said, I don't know who my father was, so
Okay.
I don't know, where he came from. So
I might as well mention right now, both of these fellows are fellow humanists, and that's a whole other story which we don't have much time for tonight. And you, religious preference now?
Well, I was, of course, born a Catholic in Germany, and I came to the United States Baptist, and then over the years I questioned belief and finally decided there was no answer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Talk about answer. Are you going to answer your phone or shut it off?
No, that's just one of the notification things.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
And you don't claim a religious affiliation nowadays?
No.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to go back to being a Catholic?
No.
Neither me. And your formal education, how much of that you got?
I went to Clark College for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the Vietnam War came along. I lost my student deferment, so then I had to do a little bit of federal time over the destruction of federal property.
They put you in jail?
Yeah, 90 days.
Do they call that a felon?
No, it was a misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor?
It wasn't. Yeah, it threw them for a loop because they had no provisions for misdemeanor federal people. So I wound up stuck in a holding tank in Tacoma for 90 days.
Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah, because McNeil Island wouldn't take anybody. It takes 90 days to get enrolled in. So.
I don't know if you will be as interesting as this guy is. This is fascinating. And what did you do to earn your keep all these years? What kind of work did you do?
Well, I worked at the paper mill for 1.5 years, and then I decided I wanted to be self-employed, so I went back to school and became an auto mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had an auto repair shop for about 25 years, including one on downtown and 21st and Irving, and next door to Cinema 21. And I repaired...
In Portland?
In Portland, I had repaired thousands of Volkswagen engines, the old air-cooled.
Uh-huh.
And I did that for a great number of years. Yeah. And then I started getting into more and more building and building maintenance. But yeah, I've always been self-employed. I was only working for 2 years for somebody else.
But you do all kinds of things, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You've done all kinds of things for me, too.
Mm-hmm.
Are you retired now or just handymaning? Or?
No, like most small businessmen, I cheated on my taxes all my life, didn't pay enough into Social Security, so I only get $600 a month. So I still have, if I want to do anything, I still have to work, which is okay. I do still remodeling and building maintenance for a lot of people. And it's particularly easy now because everybody's getting to where they can't do the stuff for themselves.
Kind of a personal thing with you. You're sort of an activist, kind of a do-gooder. You have a lot of people you help out and care about. Jumping ahead here, an organization or two you belong to that illustrates what I'm talking about now. What you're doing in your life, helping people out who need help.
Well, Jobless Justice, and I do a lot working on the homeless situation and trying to figure out a way to build temporary housing that people can live in, sort of along the lines of these iPod things that you see. And
little things with wheels under them.
Right, little iPods. You rent an iPod, they drop it off. Okay, building the same thing, and then trying to get the city and the state not to destroy them, and say this is better than the canvas tarp tent crap that people do, and trying to see if we can get them legitimized to where they can move every 24 hours from one, put them on casters, You can push them down the street, and be out of the cold and out of the rain and solve the problem indefinitely instead of the way it is. It's it's too expensive to build a legal place, so why not build those type of places and where they can move them, and then let the other problems be solved as they come up, but get people out of the rain and into a shelter.
So Washington State and Oregon doesn't like what you're doing.
Yeah, everything's illegal, but they don't have a solution to the problem. But they just want it to go away, but it never does, of course.
We won't go into any more of your other adventures of a similar outcome. And did I ask you when you were born?
March 30, 46.
46, yeah.
The war was just over.
Why were you born? I didn't ask you that, did I?
What?
Why were you born?
Why? I don't think there's a reason why. Well, ideally, two people find each other and fall in love and have children. I wasn't one of those children.
I'm not going to go in that direction anymore. Do you have a partner now? A boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, or one of those things?
No, I have a librarian that I'm excited about and have been pursuing, but I've been unable to catch her so far.
She's eluding you. Huh?
Yeah. Well, nearly 70 years old. Dating is completely different than it is when you were younger and you had a future, and so it's a different scenario.
You'll always have a future.
Oh yeah.
Political persuasion. Are you a right winger?
I'm definitely a socialist.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What do you think of Bernie Sanders?
I think it's the best thing that's happened, and I'm very upset that the left is not recognizing what a wonderful change it is to have him that good of a candidate running.
Yeah. How about memberships in other organizations? You belong to 2 or 3 others in the 99%.
I was part of the Occupy
thank you.
Occupy Solutions Committee, and because a lot of people were complaining that Occupy didn't have any solutions.
In Portland here, huh?
Yeah, but there are solutions, and of course they've ignored them since they made the complaint. But of course, as you know, I promote Annie Leonard's The Story of Solutions, where she lays out that the economic system is a man-made system, that it does whatever it's tuned to do, and if you don't like the outcome, and you have a democracy, change the rules and regulations, change the outcome.
Say a few words about Annie Leonard. Who is she and what does she do?
Annie Leonard is the head of Greenpeace.
Uh-huh.
And she has did a wonderful series of cartoon called The Story of Solutions, The Story of Stuff.
And they're delightful. I've seen some of them.
Story of bottled water, cosmetics. She has a whole string of them. But they're all very easy to understand. They're not abstract. They just say, this is what we have, here's what we can do, and here's what our choices are.
So simple and so powerful.
Yeah.
The simplicity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A couple more questions, and then we're going to move over to Jeff here. People you like or admire in your life or today, alive today, any names come to mind?
I have a lot of friends that are political and do a lot of stuff. I don't know if you ever interviewed Dave King and Laurie King.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've been active and involved with people for 50 years, so I know a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about people in the world, Mother Teresa or Gandhi or some of those people? Or
Well, of course,
Jesus, were you a Jesus follower?
No. At this point, I could say Bernie Sanders is about the closest thing that I have to somebody that I could align myself with and work for.
Okay. Shall we leave you now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeff, you ready?
Ready?
Yeah. You know the trick questions? If I asked your best friend to pretend to talk about you, I'd say, what would your best friend say about Jeff? Jeff is what? Your best friend would say that. Jeff is
a nice guy. He's relatively intelligent. He enjoys playing music from time to time. and that's mainly it. He likes to cook.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to garden. He likes to ride his bike.
Uh-huh. What's this thing you mentioned, music? That kind of stretches what you mean by music, doesn't it? I've heard you play. Talk about that for a moment, will you?
Well, I guess it is a stretch in some ways. I think
Not really.
when I play the mandolin, I play it upside down, so that's a bit unusual.
That's what I mean. Precisely.
And I like to sing in different languages. So I like to sing in French and Spanish and English and German and Lingala and Ewe. And
Swahili?
I don't do any Swahili songs, no.
But you know a couple of African language songs.
Some songs in Lingala and Ewe.
Ah, you didn't bring your instrument with you.
I didn't bring my instrument
Darn,
today.
I forgot to ask you.
No, I rode my bike. Wasn't a place to put it.
Okay. And when
That's right. One time, I think the first time I was here, you had me and my friend Mashoud Nindo, and we did some drumming from Ghana.
Yeah, that was fun. That's been a while ago.
That was a while ago.
When and where were you born?
I was born in 1956 in southern New Jersey,
New Jersey.
in the garden part of the Garden State,
Uh-huh.
the southern part where there's a lot of vegetable farming and fruit trees like peach trees.
Anything significant about your racial or cultural heritage that's worth repeating?
No, basically European descent, Protestant, born into a Protestant family, and so nothing real unusual about my upbringing. Middle class.
And you don't have a religious preference nowadays?
Nowadays, no, I'm a secular humanist and an atheist.
Atheist, that's a bad name. I say atheist to make a distinction between that and atheist.
Oh.
Because I'm one of them anyhow, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And talk about your education for a few minutes.
Education, well, I went to primary school and 7th grade in New Jersey, and then my family moved to Iowa. So there I went to the rest of middle school and high school and stayed there for college. Went to Iowa State University and ended up graduating with a bachelor's degree in math and a bachelor's degree in animal ecology and international studies.
Whoa.
And I was learning German as part of that. But I haven't been to Germany yet.
You're retired from working now?
No, my main job is...
Yes, you mentioned that before. Please say it again.
Okay, main job is as an environmental health specialist at Multnomah County. So
That's in Oregon.
that's in Oregon. And I go out to homes where families have children with asthma or children with elevated blood lead levels, or help low-income seniors and disabled find out more about their housing situations and how to help them stay in their homes longer and be healthier and safer.
Yeah. And that should make a few nickels?
I make a few nickels working for the county, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also a part-time home inspector. So I have my own business as a home inspector, and so I can do those every now and then, like on weekends and my days off.
Why don't you get a normal job, Wall Street or McDonald's or somebody? Strange stuff you humanists do.
Well, I like to be physically active, so I wouldn't be happy with just a complete desk job.
Yeah, I didn't think you would be. You have a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend. I got to cover them all, you know.
Right. I have a partner and spouse. Her name is Tamara Boyd.
Yes.
And we've been married for getting to 25 years.
25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. Children?
We have one girl that we took in as part of our humanist connections.
Mm-hmm.
She came to us at 10 years old, and now she's 21.
My gosh, 11 years.
11 years, yeah.
How is she doing?
She's doing pretty well. She's got a full-time job and taking care of herself, so that's really good.
Those rough years where you had some adjusting on her part and your part, and Tamara's part too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's
right.
commendable. That's commendable
Oh,
on
thank
your
you.
part. You bet. Political persuasion?
Well, I'm along the socialist line myself, so I support Bernie Sanders. And though I do think there's a place for capitalism within a socialist structure.
The last time we talked about this, we almost got into a fist fight, the three of us. We're not going to go there tonight, are we?
No.
And it's so delightful. It's always delightful with you guys. Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations.
Well, I'm a member of the local branch of the NAACP, and
Yeah.
I'm enjoying that lately. We've got a really good president, Joanne Hardesty
Mm-hmm.
is the president now, and she's a great leader, and I'm on the economic development and the housing committees, and so having a good time working on those.
Yeah.
And other organizations, well, there's Common Ground, Oregon, Washington, which is a chapter of Common Ground USA, which works on issues of natural resources and economics. So the basic idea is natural resources should be treated like a commonwealth.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You don't belong to any other organizations like Al-Qaeda or ISIL or no, you don't.
None of those.
What do you think about those kind of organizations anymore nowadays?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure they issue membership cards. Probably they don't. It might attract too much attention.
Yeah.
I remember something similar in Ghana when I was in the Peace Corps in Ghana in the early 80s.
Peace Corps, I forgot to ask you about that. Yeah.
And some of the people I would meet would say, "Are you in the CIA?" And I'd say, "Oh yeah, I have a membership card here."
You're so bad. How long were you in the Peace Corps?
2 years. It was
Boy,
a normal
hats
2-year Peace Corps stint.
Yeah, my hat's off to you. Other than your friends from Africa, any names of people from the past or alive today that you particularly admire as you think about it or look up to?
Oh, lots of people.
Yeah.
Well, one a group of people that I think about a lot are the people like the reporters and bloggers who are secularists, who, for example, have a really hard time of it and have even been killed in places like Bangladesh lately. And of course, it's hard for those people to get their ideas out in a religious authoritarian culture or state.
And it's dangerous too, isn't it?
Very dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I really admire those people.
Yeah. Do you admire Obama?
I do.
What for?
I think he's a person of integrity, strong integrity. I think he's working really hard to do the right thing for the country. And I really appreciate him balancing all the different waves in society, all the different political waves in society.
I didn't ask you that. What do you think of Obama? Obama.
Our first family.
First family, all right, yeah.
Yep. I'm a defender of Obama, and a lot of people are disappointed with him, and but I think he's done a wonderful job of protecting the presidency so that there will be other black and other minority presidents in the future, because he didn't do all the crazy things the right wing said that he was going to do. And it's always different when you're in the driver's seat as opposed to second guessing. And you got the military people telling you, if you let one guy out of Guantanamo and he goes and kills somebody, you're done. So you can't do just whatever you want to do as the president. You have a broader outlook. Mm-hmm. He's done a wonderful job.
Okay. Well, I think we should take a little break here, because after the break I want to ask you about, spend a minute or so about what's happened in Paris.
Okay.
Those killings, and then we'll go into the main thrust of the second part of the show. Shall we take a break, Mr. E, and Roger too? Okay, we are back. Thanks for staying tuned. And for you viewers who missed the opening of the show, you're watching Conversations with Dr. Don. It's an ongoing 1-hour talk show where I interview interesting people about who they are and whatever we decide to talk about. And we're going to get into the formula of human life. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about the killings in Paris. I phrase it that way. And what do you think about that and the reactions, and any other thoughts come to mind about that event that happened? We won't take too much time on this. I have a few thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, of course, it's a really sad event, and it's just the nature of the world these days that there are groups that feel so strongly that they need to kill, and it's the job of the rest of us to defend ourselves against that sort of thing, and to try to improve the conditions in their home countries so that they don't have such a push to tear things down and destroy society.
Yeah. What do you think, Ted?
Well, I had a strange thought the other day. I thought to myself, what would have happened if the Viet Cong would have embraced terrorism the way that these Muslims had? It never occurred to them. I mean, they fought the strongest nation on the earth for many, many years. What would have happened if they would have come over here and did suicide things? We'd have probably nuked Vietnam if they would have done that at that point in time. But the overriding thing to me is that terrorism is it's a different ball game, and the military solutions and the police solutions are they're off the table. There's just no way that you can prevent someone that's willing to commit suicide in order to get their point across from doing damage to you. You can have a police state with police on every street corner. You can do anything you want, and still someone's got to drive a gasoline truck or something and do damage. So the only solution is to not do whatever it is that causes people to be willing to die in order to make their point.
Yeah, I like to look back and figure what's behind it, what's the cause, as you were just saying. And people are lashing out because the way of solving problems that the West and America has done is by lashing out against those threats with drones and those kinds of things. And those people coming from Syria and those places like that, crossing the Mediterranean and dying along the way, have no reason to stay where they are, particularly if they're subject to being brutalized and murdered and killed. We got to look at the cause of those kinds of things to see if we can eliminate the causes and not have more of this sort of thing happening anymore. I will stop and let's go into the...
Yeah, I think the bottom line is we need to have safe sects.
Safe what?
Sects. The sects
Oh,
that are...
S-E-C-T.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about sex again.
That the sects can become just so crazy that they don't respect human life anymore.
I think it's the biggest push there has ever been for the need for establishing international law, and that the people that use drones and that strike out as the law be an international body, not a French body, not an American body, but an international body, to where people won't do suicidal attacks on Americans or French, but make it an international a court, an international police that enforces overriding human law that says that you cannot commit genocide or do other criminal acts within your country, no matter which country you are.
Well, I'm gonna make a note of that and see if we can do anything about it in the future. Okay. I titled this particular episode, Humanist Jeff Strang's Formula of Human Life. And Jeff emailed me back, he says, knock off that first beginning. Let's just talk about the formula of human life, which I've done. How does this formula help a person conduct their life or put their life in a better perspective? This formula of human life. What is the formula of human life?
The formula of human life is what you're given, who you know, what you do, and any accidents, good or bad. And for each of us, being born was an accident, and it's the first thing we're given.
Okay. Yeah.
And it helps me to put things in perspective, just looking at how we are as individuals, how we came about, the different families we were born into, the different circumstances. Yours is very different from mine, very different from Don's, and so on. And who we know, the people we first know, are the ones that take us in as children. And as we get older, we have more control over some of these things. Like as we get older, and grow into adulthood, we have more control over the people we know. You know, we can leave the bad ones behind and start to have relations with better people as we go along, if we're able to. And we have more control over what we know and what we do, those kinds of things.
So looking at a human life, we, at some point in time, in the age of the subject, we can say this is a human life up until this point, and we can't go beyond that because we can't predict the future. And then there's a snapshot of what this human being is about. And knowing what that's about invites us to better prepare for what's going to be coming in the future, even though we don't know what it is. That's my thinking about what you're talking about. How does this formula help a person conduct their life, put their life in a better perspective? Conducting your life, what do you mean by that? I was just alluding to that, I think, with my comment a minute ago.
Yeah, like I was saying about when we become adults, we have more control over our lives, over the path our lives take. We have more control over who we know, what we do. And we, if we're able to conduct our lives in a good way, we're interested in minimizing the bad accidents and leaving ourselves open for as many good accidents as possible.
So we do have free will, according to your thinking.
Yeah, we do have control. A lot of us have control over our lives. People have different levels of control, though. The folks that are very low income, they don't have as much control over their lives as people who are middle class or above.
How should a person conduct their life? Maybe I'm repeating a question that you just answered already. How am I to conduct my life where it's useful or of value to me and to the society? And
well, I don't feel that I can make a judgment for you or anybody else, but it's all based on the past leading up to where they are at the present moment, and that gives them the basis for acting in the future. And ideally they'd have good control over their lives, over what they do, who they know, those things that they're able to control. What you're given is more difficult to control, but there is a certain amount of that. Like if you make enemies, you're not going to be given much in the way of positive things. You'll be given more negative things from enemies if you make a lot of enemies. If you make a lot of friends and have a good social network, you can receive a lot from that. You'd be given more positive things. And what you're given is one of the parts of the formula of life.
I got another question here about Paris and what happened there. Some people are suggesting that the killings in Paris were simply blowback, unintended consequences. You know what that means?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think that
Well,
those killings are blowback?
There's a historical basis for the reaction. Probably the bombing in Syria by the French, and so there's a direct connection there. There could be, that's what caused the blowback, was the French deciding to take sides on the issue. That's why I say that it would have been better that we had an international organization so they could bomb the United Nations instead of bomb the French, if that's what they're wanting to do.
What about the war on terror and the use of drones and all those Middle Eastern countries that are involved now, and how many innocent civilians were slaughtered there? And some people may get mad at me when I say this, that why isn't the West laying flowers and memorials and praying and having all this reaction to those people who were killed in Paris by killers. I'm not endorsing anybody killing anybody, but it's sort of hypocritical, and it makes me angry and sad at the West, and particularly America, not showing that kind of empathy and concern for other human beings taken, because this is a whole different context, respect for human life and killing fellow human beings. So I think if we had a little more genuine empathy in our country, perhaps we could be empathetic to the plight of those people who are crossing the Mediterranean and those people who are refugees, even those who are striking out in terms of blowback at those who made the initial discount and the initial injury that's still ongoing. There's something awfully wrong if you have over 140 some countries where there are drone bases, primarily American, that are killing people, innocent people all over the place, and they're redoubling their efforts and increasing these goings on. And I'm wondering if what's going on now is a precursor to World War III.
I have a different spin on this. I think you heard it before, but what it is that I want the United States to take drone technology and give it to the World Court and let the World Court be the person who decides, because a drone killing is better than a nation going to war, or two nations going to war against each other and killing hundreds of thousands of innocent people. So I'd like to see drones used to enforce international law, like genocide is illegal and anyone that commits it for whatever reason will be taken out. I think that's one of the technological advantages that there is in drones, is that, you know, we could have killed Hitler and his henchmen instead of having to destroy all of Europe. So I see a good side to the drones. But no, us Americans using the drones to enforce American policy, and American foreign policy has been a disaster, and nation building has been a disaster because we're not good at it. Our intentions aren't good, our information isn't good, and we're seen as evil. But that same technology used by the International Court to enforce basic, simple human rights, like against genocide within any country, I think is a good idea.
How do you get an objective international court?
Well, I mean, we had Idi Amin, we've had other people that committed genocide, and we all stood around and said, well, there's nothing you can do about it besides go to war and involve, you know, lots of people's lives and a huge investment. Drones offer you an alternative. You take the leaders out once it's determined they are committing genocide or they are committing major human rights violations. It's better than war, better than invading armies.
And your question is, why should it just be the rich countries that have these drones? Why shouldn't it be
We should allow the technology
controlled
to be
by the
used by
world?
we have the technology. We should allow the international court to do it. Then that way, it won't be our judgment, and if there is question or hostility, it won't be directed towards us.
How do we get an international court that's going to be reasonably objective in its opinions and deciding who's a bad guy or a good guy?
I guess the court at Hague was against the Vietnam War. It's against every invasion that we've done, and we went ahead and did them anyway.
So there's a force more powerful than the Hague and the International Court.
Well, I think the Europeans are pretty much seen the shortcomings of the stuff that we've been doing for years, and we've ignored it. We ignore international. We're the preventer of international. Between us, we used to blame the Russians too for not going along with it. But I think it would be a good thing that if we could at least stop genocide and other mass killings with a level of law, international law at that level. You know, you don't have to get involved in the oil and the free market and capitalism and all that other nonsense. Just basic human right of that you're not going to be taken out and shot for your beliefs, or religious or political, in any country. But that's.
So we're all socialistic, the three of us, to varying degrees, and I'm wondering how deep our socialistic tendencies are when we consider people in the news and people that are worthy of much media coverage, and what you think of them and what they're doing, what they're about. And I'm thinking about, you're going to vote for Donald Trump? What do you think of Donald Trump?
Entertainer and a joke.
Yeah, entertainment. Entertainment.
What's the likelihood of his achieving the presidency?
Very low, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He might make it on American Idol.
Okay, we're finding funny things to say about him rather than consider if by some fluke, and there are a lot of flukes in presidential elections over the years, he assumes the presidency, even if he doesn't have Sarah Palin be his running mate. What would you do then? Would you move back to Germany, or what?
No, the way it's set up, no one man can do anything he wants once he gets into office. And while he would be a disaster in a few areas, it wouldn't be necessary to move out of the country.
What would you do?
Moving out of the country is an option. We had a speaker at the Humanists a couple weeks ago who was advocating for moving to Uruguay. And Canada's looking pretty good too.
Yeah. And do you think there'd be a difference in our country if Bernie won the presidency?
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, I'm a supporter of Bernie, so I'd really like to see him get it.
Netanyahu, is he a hero of yours?
No.
Warmonger.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be able to work well with the Palestinians.
Uh-huh.
He just presents too hard of a front.
Okay. Hillary.
Hillary, I respect and admire her, but I think Bernie would be better. But we'll see what happens.
What's most important nowadays for us to really dwell on or do something about in the near future? The things going on in our country and in the world. What should we address now?
Well, there's always that balance between what do we do locally and what do we do in a bigger picture sense. So, again, I can't really advise other people what they need to do with their own lives. That's for them to decide. But for me, I'll just continue with my work at the local and the state level. With Common Ground, Oregon, Washington, I'm working more at the state level. And with the NAACP, I'm working more at the local level. And of course, my work at the county, that's more of a local level. And I still have friends in Ghana, and I visit them every now and then, and that's always nice to keep up the contacts with some folks in another part of the world.
Sure.
Well, I would like to say that we're filthy rich. It's the best time in history. I don't understand why people are living in fear. Social Security is not going to disappear. The economic system is doing fine, and all it has to do is be adjusted to solve any of the problems we could easily solve if we chose to. So I don't understand what the pessimism and the insecurity is. We're filthy rich. The only thing that can do us harm is nature. Other than that, we're doing it to ourselves. We have great technology. We have everything we need. And other than nature, the future looks great. I don't understand why people are afraid, other than the system for some reason wants to keep people competing with each other, thinking what's good for one group's got to be bad for the other, and vice versa, instead of seeing that, there's plenty for everybody.
Well, for me, that we're filthy rich, that doesn't compute in what we're talking about as far as I'm concerned personally. I'm not filthy rich. If I had your gold bar stashed in the backyard, I'd be filthy rich. The reality is, I'm afraid, even before I die, that austerity is going to come home to America. It'll be worse. I'm looking at how it has been in the past and history. So you need to make a distinction between what humans are filthy rich and which ones aren't. Because I have children and children's children coming along, and if we look back over 2 or 3 generations and see where we were then, where we are now, I can guesstimate how it's going to be in the future if things keep going in the same direction. So we're filthy rich just ignores, to me, the impending problem unless we do something about it, we being ordinary citizens.
That's why I'm a socialist, is that to make the economy work for everyone, the wealth is there. It's just a matter of who gets it, how, when, and where. And let's change it to where, instead of competing with each other, the wealth of the country protects us all from being homeless and having nothing. Let's take the job situation and make it a society problem instead of an individual problem. And let's not educate a whole generation of children to educations that won't do them any good occupationally. Let's just make sure the jobs will be there because the society is organized to make them be there. And if that means a 30-hour work week, if that means job sharing, so be it. But there's no reason why we should live in fear of collapse. We may not be able to grow and expand as much as we have in the last 50 years. So what? 50 years ago, I was living pretty good. I didn't have all the stuff I have now. So even if there is a setback, it would have to be a 30, 40-fold before it would actually be a loss over what we had in the 60s. So I don't see that there's any problem at all. And I don't why we're living in fear. There's plenty of wealth here. We may not own it, but if we can, through the political process, bring it back through taxation, through regulation, whatever. The wealth is there. The buildings are there. The infrastructure is there. So, it's not understanding that it's a choice to allow us to compete with each other and live in fear, as opposed to say, we're all doing good and we may go up and down a little bit, but that's okay.
Help me, Jeff. We've been here before.
But it makes sense to me. There could be another disaster on the scale of 9/11 here that would bring things down. Or, like you say, a natural disaster like an earthquake, like we're talking about here in the Pacific Northwest. But I agree with you. America is doing pretty well economically, but could use some help with the distribution, couldn't it?
Well, the way I look at it is trillions of dollars wasted in wars, trillions of dollars in bank bailouts, and then people say, well, we're afraid Social Security is going to dry up and all this other. Certainly, if we can bail out Wall Street and if we can have useless wars into the trillions of dollars, we can keep the Social Security check coming. Print the money, whatever it is that they did to finance the wars and the other things that they didn't need to do. It's just, the only thing that can be wrong is if the crops don't grow, if people don't plant the seed, and the sun don't shine, there'd be no food. Other than that, we're doing just fine, and we will continue to do just fine.
What kind of brownies did you have before you came on the show this evening? Sorry. Okay, you can make fun of my beliefs too. That's what it's all about, anyhow.
That's right.
So anyhow, we got a minute or so left. How about some closing thought or comment about anything at all right now for the viewers? And camera 2, you want to go first? Talk to people in camera 2.
young people just take control of the economic and political system and make it work for everybody.
Jeff?
To my friends in France, be strong.
And I am going to keep speaking out. I'm a child of the 60s, and I think back in history in this country, the only time any serious change occurred was when people took to the streets. And the ordinary citizens acted up and resisted, and shut down the system and those kinds of activities. And that's what I'll be a part of as long as I can stay off of Homeland Security's lists and like that. And I don't want to go to jail like you do periodically. So let's stop. And thanks for coming on again.
It's a pleasure, Don.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
PSAs, Mr. E, public service announcements. To watch my shows on the web, Google Don Baham, YouTube. There's hundreds of shows. And you might even find an old one where we had Jeff and Ted on in the past and see if we lied compared to what we said before. And the ACLU, got to join the American Civil Liberties Union to take back our country and protect our civil liberties. And we got to have a constitutional amendment to end corporate personhood, move to amend, and go to that website to learn how to end corporate personhood and reverse Citizens United. To learn more about humanists and humanism, go to www.americanhumanist.org and learn more about humanists and what we're about. And gotta remind you to remember KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable. Right. To you too. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Good night.